Pharma counters, let's just look at those as well. On the CNX Pharma Index, there's only one counter that's looking weak at the moment. Everything else is gone up. And Cipla, it's always had a major run up. And the biggest gainers are Sun Pharma, Ranbaxy's, Divi's Lab, Lupin, Cadila. Everything is very, very strong. And that's what is in the CNX Pharma pack, the bigger pharma players. Some of the pharma, obviously smaller players, are taking a hit, and part of that could be because the NPPA, the drug price watchdog, has taken a step back. Media reports suggested that the government has told it that you have to move back, and unfortunately that's what we have put as our headline. I take responsibility for that as well. The NPPA's wings snipped, and we thought that's the government, but Mr. Kewal Handa, former MD of Pfizer and an industry watcher expert, has just corrected me, Prashant, and he said that it's actually a Bombay High Court order, Mr. Handa?
Yes, it's an order from Bombay High Court.
Could you give us the details what happened there?
So you see, in July, they brought about 108 formulation under price control by a methodology which is quite different from what is it in the NLEM. These were the products which were outside the essential drugs. And they said that they would cap at 25% of the average price. Now, the court has said that you need to, under para 19, prove that this is for an extraordinary circumstances. I guess, A, the entire policy framework was not used for fixing the price, and B, they couldn't prove that this is for an extraordinary circumstances. So the court has asked them to take back the guidelines. So the moment you take back the guidelines, all the price fixation you have done in July, is withdrawn.
Okay, so you don't have to individually say that the price caps have been removed, because the guidelines were targeted things which are outside the essential.
Absolutely,
drugs,
outside
right?
the framework of the policy. And you brought in these 108 drugs and said that I will cap the prices.
So what we were going through the list of those drugs, mostly many of them were some anti-diabetes, some heart disease related drugs, some antibiotics as well?
Yeah, see, there were two notifications. The one in July, you're right, absolutely. It is cardiac and diabetes drug. They issued another notification now in September, which covers almost about 40 drugs. Now, this notification is also, by ratio, should be withdrawn. But somebody might have to go to the court to ask them to withdraw this notification.
But this notification actually also is outside what you said.
This is also outside.
So this also was done under para 19.
This also is under para 19.
So as soon as they've said that the guidelines under para 19 are withdrawn, the internal guidelines, I think that's what they called it.
Absolutely.
Automatically, even the 43 drugs that they announced day before yesterday go.
I should go.
Okay.
But my bigger issue is, for the July, people have reduced prices. It's almost about 6,000 to 7,000 reduction crores of rupees have come down by July notification. Now, when the prices go up, and
who's going to pay for that loss?
You overcharge it, you have to pay to the government. By the same ratio, now the government should pay back to the industry that 7,000 crore loss that has happened. Okay. I mean, for the first place, it's illegal to do that. And having done that, now why don't you pay it back?
Yeah. So you're saying that at this, the difference was already paid by pharma?
Of course, they have already paid this 5,000 to 7,000 crores.
So do you suspect that they will have to go back again to the court to get that money back?
I don't know what the process there would be. I mean, it's in the earlier policy, they used to have a drug price equalization account where you could take back the money from the government if you have wrongly paid. So I would take that as this is wrongly paid to the government. But then, you know, it is a principle of unjust enrichment. The government has not become unjust enriched on this. It's the patients have become. So there would be a challenge there.
Oh, all right. Okay. So the patients have become. All right. Okay. Interesting. Because, a lot of analysts, and these are the stock market analysts, not people who just look at the drug industry, they look at the numbers. They obviously reworked their target prices, the kind of earnings that companies would have, and suddenly those targets have actually changed again, right? Everything goes up. 7,000 odd crore, you're saying that if companies go and ask, they say that give it back to us, that could add quite a bit to the targets as well.
Assuming you don't get that money, at least you restore back your old prices.
Right. The 43 drugs that were brought under the list, what were they essentially for?
They
Cancer
were antibiotic, mostly they were
antibiotics.
Yeah.
Ciprofloxacin
was one of them.
Yeah, that one of the most common
Gastro, antibiotic, anti-infectives and vaccines.
Vaccines as well. Vaccines. The BCG.
Basically, yeah.
All right. And BCG vaccines, is government one of the big buyers itself?
See, they have a government has the national vaccine scheme where they buy it, and so they become a big buyer because immunization is one of the biggest things, and these are covered under the immunization. But the fact remains is the companies who have suffered in July now can actually go back and restore the pricing.
They can restore the
pricing. But you know, the interesting thing is, if you look at the pricing in the pharmaceutical, the DPCO price increases and non-DPCO, both NLEM and non-NLEM together, the price increase in the range of 2%.
Okay.
It's just in the range of 2%. And for products which are outside NLEM, assuming that their price increase is higher, it goes only up to 4%. Where actually they can go up to 10%.
Okay.
So if, in fact, it's a bogey that the price increases are taking place. It's not.
Okay. In fact, if one looks at it in healthcare, drugs themselves are probably the cheapest thing that one has to face.
Absolutely. The real challenge
hospitalization, surgery and things, tests, those are the ones which are much more expensive.
Absolutely. The real challenge is the affordability of hospitalization, affordability of the
labs, I mean path labs.
Path labs.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no control on that.
I mean, even for a person like me, I'd rather that the doctor tells you take these drugs first and test 7 days later, because if the drug works, I won't have to test. Those costs are gone. But the drugs are cheap. I just wanted to get a sense, how are you seeing this government proceeding? You said that the Bombay High Court actually came in. In the morning, someone was saying that, one of our experts was saying that probably this is the reason why the government has asked the NPPA to withdraw is because it feels that ahead of Mr. Modi's US visit, they don't want to talk too much about price control. And maybe that's why they've withdrawn. But you're saying it's actually the High Court which did it. Do you see this government being more price control oriented?
See, price is very sensitive. Pharmaceutical price is very sensitive, whichever government it is.
Yeah.
There has been an issue right now with the government and the US is on the implementation of the patent law.
Yeah.
IP rights. And, you know, the compulsory licensing that is happening, the court intervention is happening. I think that is a bigger issue which Modi will have to tackle at US level. Pricing normally will not get into it, but the intellectual property right protection is a bigger issue where the dialogue will take place.
Okay, Dr. Harshvardhan, we were discussing this before we came on air. Dr. Harshvardhan himself is very, himself a doctor, has been been credited for having eradicated polio, whether he has or not, but that was part of the BJP campaign at one point. He is very, very anti-smoking, for instance. He's been talking about heart disease, he's been talking about diabetes. There's a lot of spending going on right now on creating awareness. What happens if they say that heart disease is technically an epidemic in India, or diabetes is an epidemic in India? Legally, what happens?
Well, if they say it's an epidemic in India, then based on the number of patients suffering from heart disease or from diabetes, there are so many drugs available for that.
No, I'm just saying, I'm just asking you a hypothetical question, that if they say this is an epidemic and therefore it can now come under that NELM, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
And therefore the drugs which treat them can be successfully brought under that para 19.
See, this is not a solution. For any, reducing pricing is not a solution. If it is an epidemic, what is the root cause of the epidemic? How are you going to address the epidemic? Drug is only a treatment. You have
it is a treatment, but it is a great sentimental value, especially in elections, right?
Yeah.
That if you say that we made drugs cheaper, your medicines are cheaper, you do get votes.
I don't think so. They made the drugs cheaper. The last government, UPA government, they lost elections also on that.
True. Yeah. No, I'm just saying that politicians tend to see it in that manner.
I don't think so. That's a wrong way of looking at it.
Yeah.
You need to address the issues like diabetes. How many patients are actually screened properly? And what is the diagnosis? How many actually treated? Let's focus on those things first. Drugs cost, there are availability of the drugs at a much cheaper price. Maybe you can use those drugs if you want to use it.
In fact, we were just discussing that Cardace, one of the ones which has gone off, there are many cheaper versions of that available. So if a patient wants, they can get cheaper drugs.
Absolutely, there are a wide range of drugs available. For every molecule that gets launched in India, there are 100 brands. So you can choose between the brands and then say, this is what I...
So the final, before we let you go, the final thing is that do you fear for the pharma sector a little bit in terms of too much regulation? Do you fear for it?
I think, I don't fear. I think there has to be balance. And what this government would normally do is to have a dialogue with the industry.
Yeah.
But many times, all these things are driven by individuals who are heading.
Ms. Kiran Majumdar-Shaw had been making that point, that there's no dialogue, no one's speaking to us.
That's where the challenge is. The dialogue has to happen with the drug ministry, the dialogue has to with the health ministry, and a holistic approach has to be taken. You cannot pick and choose and say, this is what I want to do.
All right, Mr. Handa, thanks so much for coming in. Pleasure talking to you.
Thanks, pleasure.